you're just sitting there and your central nervous system goes, and you're like, what the Ras is going on? Why are you doing that? Yeah, so obviously I think the biggest thing about chronic pain is that most people do not understand what it is. They think chronic pain is the same as pain.
Yeah.
Completely two different things. Pain, acute pain, be it a cut, be it a bruise, anything like that, is basically it's a physiological response called nociception. You have nociceptors, you cut yourself, those nociceptors send off basically an impulse in your peripheral nervous system saying, fret, there's a fret, goes up to your central nervous system, to your spinal cord, goes up to your mind goes, oh, there's a threat, we need to make sure he knows about this threat. Pain makes you aware, you sort it out, get on top of it. Chronic pain, completely different. Chronic pain is you're sitting there, there's no threat, and ow. Like, how does that make sense, man? That doesn't make any sense. How is that coming in? So it's teaching people that because it's not just this physiological nociception, it's a lot more psychological and a lot more sociological. So it's telling people that, you know, when you take a medication, when you take a painkiller, when you take something like that, it's completely biologically working. There's no psychosocial elements into it. Nothing comes... Maybe the psychological thought of taking the pill can be a crutch. You know, the placebo effect of just taking it in the first place.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's nothing happening. So the thing I like telling people about pain management is that, you know, if you're only focusing on the biological aspect of nociception, you're missing 2/3 of the picture, which means if you're trying to engage in pain management and you're only looking at it biologically, you're only sorting out 1/3 of your pain in essence. So you need to get on top of it psychologically and socially. So what I mean by socially, in your social environment, are there things that are making you uneasy? Are you in an uncomfortable, stressful experience? Is there loud noises that make you uncomfortable? Is there too much light? Is it too dark? Is it not comfortable for you around in your environment? Psychologically, are you in a good place at the moment? Is there things going on in your daily life? Are you stressed out? Because stress is cortisol. Pain is cortisol. It's very, very similar. When you're fight or flight, everyone knows about the fight or flight response and the rest and digest response. Your fight or flight is your sympathetic nervous system, and your parasympathetic nervous system is your rest and digest. There's the known, you get anxiety, something scares you, you go, cortisol goes up, it induces anxiety, and it makes you act. It makes you either fight or flight. You do one or t'other, yeah? Now, when you're in pain, you don't need the You're just sitting there and your central nervous system goes, and you're like, what the Ras is going on? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
So it's teaching yourself how to, instead of sitting in fight or flight, get back into rest and digest. And that's what meditative practices is. That is what relaxing is. That is why you go to the gym. That's why you do yoga. That's why you do mindfulness. That's why you do plant care. That's why you maybe go on a nice day out with your mates. You go to the library and read some books. Whatever it is for you that helps you wind down at the end of the day.
Yeah, so in terms of managing chronic pains, what advice do you give?
But it's the thing, it's really weird. So, like, obviously, as a campaign, Flipping Pain, we don't give medical advice to people specifically. So we're not giving individual tailored care to anyone. What we're providing was, because we're a public health campaign, we're providing the public with contemporary pain science. We're giving people the knowledge that is out there about pain, so they, with their own understanding of themselves, their pain experience, can create their own tailored pain management plan. So, and this is the thing about pain. So it's like, as I said before, because my pain started because of a motorcycle crash, say I was watching, the Isle of Man TT on TV, because I love watching motorcycle racing, yeah? And I see, like that happens all the time, someone crashes and they have the most obscene, ridiculous crash. Now, when I watch that crash, because I've had trauma directly associated with motorbike crashes, I'm going to look at that experience, I'm going to see it, my central nervous system is going to see a motorbike crash and go, fret, and it's going to send pain signals to stop me, to protect me, to get me out of that situation, to say, Kai, there's a threat in your local environment, get out, protect yourself. Because my central nervous system's hypersensitive, because I've been through all this pain and this trauma. Yeah. Now, someone else, say their accident stems from being in Afghanistan. They're in the front line and a claymore or something blows off their arm, yeah? And they've got a lot of trauma associated with war, with, violence, that type of thing. Yeah. And they're at home, it's 10 years on, and they're watching Jarhead, or they're watching any war film, basically, like Black Hawk Down or something like that. That film, none of that would ever trigger me. None of that, unless there's a motorbike crash or a car crash in that film. It's the only thing that's going to trigger my pain. But for that guy who's been in Afghanistan, he's had all that trauma, his pain is going to flare up and detect threat as soon as he puts on the bloody film, because it's a war film.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. It would be redundant for us as a public health campaign to go out there and tell people about techniques to manage their pain, because we would cover everything under the sun. The list would be forever long, because it would have to encompass every single individual's, experience, pain experience, triggers, all of that stuff. So instead we go, all right, here's the science. Your central nervous system has become hypersensitive because you have been through so much threat and so much pain and suffering in your life. It's turned up, it's amplified its sensitivity to make sure it experiences less threat. If it turned down its sensitivity, you'd get injured more often. If you turn down your pain, there's people born with no pain. Those people die traditionally very young because they injure themselves so severely they die. Do you know what I mean? So it's like your body, when you go through pain and when you go through experience, it does the opposite. It turns up its sensitivity. So it's like pain management techniques for me are meditation. They are yoga. They are, inhaling vaporized cannabis. They are having a cup of tea and some biscuits. They're going to the pub with my mates and maybe not having some alcohol, but just having some nice conversation and stuff like that. They're for me going to the gym because I actually like exercise. I like being able to walk. It makes me happy. So that's my pain management. But as I say, for a million other people, it's going to be completely different. So it's like, it's a really difficult thing. But this is where knowing yourself and learning to understand yourself really comes into it, because it's like a lot of people, they are living in a constant state of fight or flight, and they are being triggered by everything in their environment, and they're not aware of it because they've never deeped the psychological or social components that influence their chronic pain situations. So it's like, this is what we're trying to do. We're just trying to get people to become more wary and understand that just because you're not aware of this yet doesn't mean that you can't become aware of it, and that means that you'll soon be able to stop these triggers igniting your pain. So yeah.
How do you start that journey though? Like, if someone's like, obviously to deep dive into that, you got to dive into the trauma, which is then going to have its own impact, which is a bit of a double-edged sword, I suppose.
It is a very difficult one. So obviously with anyone with chronic pain, there comes a lot of psychological issues. There comes a lot of depression, anxiety, those mental health things we were talking about earlier. So if you are suffering, you should always be engaging in some form of psychological support, be that a family member, a friend, or be that a healthcare professional that's trained in psychotherapy, counselling, that sort of thing. So that should always be, you should always be, covering your mind and stuff like that, making sure that you're supported in the right departments. Because a lot of people, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that haven't got any support. And if you're in pain and you've got no one looking after you, and you're sitting there thinking, I'm going to be in pain the rest of my life and I've got no one to look after me, that's going to make you really sad and really worried. That's going to spike more cortisol and actually cause you more pain. So it's like, I'm not going to tell someone to go speak to a family member or a friend and stuff like that, because there's a lot of people out there that unfortunately don't have that. But there are incredible healthcare professionals out there that will help, and they can help. So I think the start of the journey is first I don't want to sound patronizing when I say this, but it's taking responsibility that this is your pain, which was something really difficult for me, because I really wanted it to be the surgeon's fault. I really wanted it to be the guy driving the car's fault. I really wanted it to be their stuff that they had to deal with, because I didn't want this pain, which to me meant I shouldn't have to deal with it. But unfortunately, life isn't like that. And I had to pull up my socks and I had to go, right, if this is my life, I'm going to have to face this. So I did the research and stuff. But luckily, with these campaigns and stuff like that, you don't have to do all the reading that I did. You don't have to do a master's in health psychology. You don't have to do that. I'm doing that because I want to make this my life journey. I want to make this my purpose. But that's not what everyone has to do. Now, all you have to do is go to the Flipping Pain website. Now, all you have to do is, buy a book called Explain Pain by Lorimer Moseley, David Butler. That book changed my life. And all the key messages that Flipping Pain have, they somewhat stem from the messages in that book. But yeah, it's like, groups like these, there's a lot of incredible apps like Curable. There's some more apps that are being created at the moment, one called Pained. That's a really cool pain app that should be out in this year, to be fair. So there's a lot of information and a lot of technologies that can help an individual if they're in that situation. But yeah, the first thing you need to do is go, do you know what, if this is my pain, I need to get on top of it. And if these tablets aren't working, what will. And a lot of the
Yeah.
time that is these practices that are idiosyncratic to ourselves. But yeah, once you get a bit of understanding about the pain, you can then get an understanding towards what you can do with yourself. And then from that, you can implement that. And it's not an easy fix. It's not an overnight thing. It's not like a pill where you take it and it changes your life. This will happen slowly. But I promise you, like me, you will get to a point where you don't take a single medication. You get up every single day and go to work. You go to the gym. You have an incredible social life and you're back to being you again. So it is worth it wholeheartedly.